we are going to make some Parmesan Crusted Tilapia, some cheesy polenta using some Swiss and Gruyere cheese. And then I made some sourdough English muffins. First time I'm making them, so bear with me, but I think they turned out well. My husband says, those don't look like English muffins. And I said, well, you don't get to join anything. But we have these, and then we're going to make our Parmesan, garlic, broccoli. So kind of a simple, easy dinner tonight. So let's start. We need to add 3 cups of water to our pot over here. I'm going to bring it to a boil in our back. This is going to be for our cheesy polenta. We're going to use 3 cups of our water with 3 cups of milk. If I don't have quite enough 3 cups of milk, we're going to add a little bit of heavy cream to make them even creamier. I could go out and grab some more milk, but cream is good. Use whole milk. These are going to make for your creamy, cheesy polenta. Polenta and grits are pretty much the same thing, except polenta is cooked a little bit longer. It's like the difference between oatmeal and porridge. Porridge is cooked a little longer. So we're going to bring that to a boil. Let me add in some salt. We're going to do some garlic salt for this instead of regular salt because it will play well with our cheeses. So we want about a teaspoon and a half to 2 teaspoons in here for the amount of grits that we're making, or polenta. And then let me grab a spoon. We'll give this a quick little stir. And then I'm going to turn on my skillet here. And we are going to heat it up on low because you're going to cook them on a low but hot skillet. So I'm going to let it heat up, and then maybe like 5 minutes, it'll be nice and hot and ready to start cooking our English muffins. Let's see what we want to do. Let's start seasoning up our tilapia here. Look at this. I've got several little fillets here. Let me grab my garlic salt that I left over there, because you can't have them without the garlic salt. Okay, we are going to season them up with some of our Mrs. Dash's blend. This is just the Costco version of that. Some dried parsley, paprika, onion powder, garlic salt, and a little bit of ground black pepper. So these are the main seasonings that we're going to be using on it. We're going to start with the onion powder. I'm going to have to try to grab. I want to shake it on. And for some reason, this is stuck up there. There we go. So we're going to give a nice shaking on it. This is going to give it a really nice savory flavor to it. The onion is just really lovely. And we'll put our Parmesan on at the very end, but we want our herbs and stuff to stick on it first. Let's see. Let me grab a tong here. Slide this over because I want to make sure I get my tilapia all seasoned up well. Okay, so onion powder. We're going to season up both sides of our tilapia. Then we're going to use a little bit of paprika. This is going to actually help give it a nice kind of golden color when it's fried up. And it has a very mild flavor, but it gives you such a lovely color. And they say things taste better when they're pretty. So nice little sprinkle over our tilapia. Then we're going to use some of our Mrs. Dash's kind of table blend, the Kirkland version of it. This has lovely little herbs in it. It's just kind of an all-over blend, which kind of works well because it didn't have any particular theme going on with tonight's dinner. Okay, now we're going to do a nice little shaky of our Parmesan, or our garlic salt. And again, you're just shaking it over, just doing a nice little dusting on there. And then we're going to use a little bit of dried parsley. There. Just again, all the way over. And then our black pepper. And then just go lighter on the black pepper because you don't want it super spicy if you're like me and think black pepper is spicy. I love the flavor, but I don't want it to be swimming in it. Now we're going to take our Parmesan cheese and we're going to sprinkle a little bit on each one. And then we'll press it down into the fish to help keep it stay. And this is just going to crisp up nicely on it. We're going to give it a nice push on here. So just smush it down. And then we're going to flip it over. And that like smushing it down will help it stay onto the fish. And then we're going to flip all of it over. And we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Get my hands washed. Okay. And now we're going to do it all over again. I'm going to start with my onion powder first because that hydrates well on the fish and will bring in that flavor the most. So nice little sprinkle over the top of each one. There we go. Then we'll do our paprika. And this will add a nice kind of golden color to it when we pan fry it up. It has a lovely, very, very mild kind of savory, pepper flavor to it, like a bell pepper flavor, but it's lovely. We'll do our kind of everything blend. It's the same as Mrs. Dash's.
Yoda sent you some gifts.
Well, thank you, Yoda. May the force be with you. There we go. Nice little sprinkle over. Let's do our parsley, which is more for looks than anything because it adds that nice little green brightness to it. But parsley, I can tell you, is a very mild spice. Garlic salt. It would not survive without garlic salt. I feel like, I can't remember when I made this switch from using regular salt to garlic salt. It just makes everything taste so much better. And a nice little sprinkle of black pepper. And now we're going to go with our cheese again. We'll sprinkle it on. You don't want to go too thick because, again, if it's too thick, it won't stick to it. And you just need a little bit because it will melt and crisp up, and you don't want to go overboard with it. But it will give you that nice kind of crispy crust without really doing a full-on breading. So it's a great way to kind of cut calories, especially if you're trying to do it like a keto or low carb. Now, the polenta and the crumpets, that doesn't follow that part, but the fish does. We're going to give them a nice push down as well. And I'm just going to slide this up to the top because we're not quite ready to cook those up yet. And I'll give this hand a quick little rinse. Okay, let's see how our is boiling. We're getting close to it. Once it comes to a little boil, we'll throw in our polenta. Now I'm going to check how this is feeling. Nice and hot. So we are going to be cooking our English muffins on a hot skillet. So this is a non-stick griddle pan. And you don't need oil or butter. And you cook them at low on a hot skillet for about 2 minutes on each side. And what it does is that steam kind of cups up and cooks them on the inside, makes them nice and bubbly, and cooks them through. There we go. There is a dusting of cornmeal on the top of them, but it's just a really simple recipe that used just like my sourdough starter that I fed last night. I was like, I had to do something with this. I haven't done it a while. So we used up a bunch. So I'm hoping these turn out well against my husband's thoughts. I always surprise him. He always thinks something's not going to turn out, and then it turns out. Okay, let's get our broccoli prepped for our dinner tonight. I'm just going to cut off these kind of the big chunky stems here. You can always use a bag of, florets if you want to. I just find it's a little bit cheaper sometimes to buy them whole. and they don't go as bad quite as quickly when they're still on that crown part. There we go. And we'll break these through here. We're gonna do our like OG recipe where I'm gonna melt some butter. We're gonna saute up some garlic with it. I'm gonna have to unfortunately crush and cut up my own garlic tonight because I've yet to buy myself a new jar of my garlic. So it's one of those things that I don't buy that often. So it's going to probably take me like 3 store runs before I remember to grab it, which means I'll be self-mincing garlic from now until then. Okay, we've got our garlic or our broccoli florets here, all prepped and ready. Let's slide these on. And we gave them a good wash. And I will say you want them to be wet when you kind of go into the oven when we do this roast, because they're, with them being wet, they kind of steam a little first before they crisp up, which is lovely. So I'll have those right here. Let's clear this just a second. See, give this a nice stir. Don't want it to scald. So with the milk in there, you got to stir it a little bit more frequently. And we're going to go and do our garlic now. So I don't need a whole lot of garlic for this one. Fresh is also going to be a bit more potent, but I want to say a tablespoon, which will end up being probably 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. I just find it such a pain to have to peel these and work to get the deliciousness when I can have somebody else do that for me. Yeah, I will say there are a few things that are better, or like, you know, fresh garlic is more delicious, but the convenience of the jarlic outweighs it most of the time, unless garlic is your star of the recipe. So if I'm doing garlic in a sourdough, of course I will do the work. Let me put a little bit of butter in my back one to start melting. And we need about, I want to say, maybe 2 tablespoons of butter. So we're going to let it melt first, and then we'll add in our diced up garlic here. So I'm going to, or minced up. I'm going to mince it up. Here, let me smush it first. There we go. And now we're going to mince it over and over. And just try to get some small bits because I don't want to have a huge chunk of garlic on my broccoli, but just a little bit small. Will have a lovely flavor though. Fresh garlic is so much more potent than a jarlic. Here we go. And just a few more minces. And that should be good. Okay. Let's add this into our butter. You just have to watch with garlic. It can saute up really fast. So I'm always like, make sure you pay attention. Don't forget about it, because then you'll have burnt garlic before you're even ready. Okay. Let's let that, got the butter there. You can feel it. I think we are so close that yeah, it is hot. You can see it's starting to simmer a little bit. We're going to add in our polenta, which is, so it's corn grits, but we're going to add in 1.5 cups. There we go. Give it a good shake. And we're going to stir and cook these on bring them to a boil, and then we'll bring them down to a low simmer. We're going to add our cheese in, but we add our cheese in towards the very end. Otherwise, if you add it in too soon, it can burn to the bottom of your pot. So we're going to let this come to a nice boil with those that polenta in there, and then we can lower it down. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes. Let's check on these guys. Okay, that one's good. This one is not, so let's flip him back over. A little bit longer. Okay, I'm going to turn it up a little bit higher. I'm impatient. We'll do a little bit higher. I'm going to do it at about a 4, and we'll see if that cooks up. But look, It's looking pretty good for an English muffin.
I don't know if Thomas is going to be calling you.
Well, you know what? I don't care because it'll probably taste better than his. There we go. I know the muffin brand. I know. I got it. I understand. I know. I'm the one who buys the groceries here. I'm surprised you knew it.
You have a question? What's the difference between polenta and grits?
They're actually the same thing. Polenta is cooked longer, so it gets smoother and creamier. But the bag literally says yellow corn grits. Now, sometimes you can have the white corn grits, which are also really common, and so it's in there. But the yellow corn grits is the yellow is most often used for polenta, but they're like the same thing. Polenta, you just cook it till it's creamier, smoother, fluffier. So it takes a longer cooking process. It's the difference between oatmeal and porridge. They're the same thing, but porridge has been cooked longer. Okay, here is our garlic. It's sizzling up nicely. I will say it has such a lovely smell. Our polenta is bubbling. Let's get this ready. And then we'll pop this in the oven. I'm going to press all of this together. We're going to pour our kind of infused butter over this. This is going to give it such a lovely flavor on the broccoli. This is like my new favorite way to eat broccoli. Even my husband, he likes the broccoli better this way than the steamed. And you can switch it up. Now, I'm going to do Parmesan cheese, but you could also do this with cheddar cheese, and they're delicious. We're going to give it, before I put the cheese on, let's give it a nice sprinkle of garlic salt. And then we're going to cover it with some Parmesan cheese. And these are going to be ready to go in the oven in just a second. Let me flip my crumpets over here. There we go. Look at that. That one's still blonde. It's because my skillet over here is hotter. So we'll give it I have to push them in closer so they cook a little bit nicer. Okay. Let's get our oil heated up for our fish. Ran out of olive oil, so I had to buy some more. I feel like I have just nonstop use of olive oil in our house. Should have stock in it. Okay. We're going to get this starting to heat up. You don't need a lot. This is about probably 2 to 3 tablespoons, mainly because I have a huge amount of tilapia to fry up for our family. I'm going to give this a stir. You want to stir your polenta frequently. I'm going to turn it down just a smidge. Let it come to a boil, but stirring is key so it doesn't stick to the bottom of your pot. I'm doing mine in a Dutch oven, which helps retain the heat, and it has, of course, the non-stick surface on the bottom or coating, which is nice too. Okay, let's go put these in the oven. This is gonna go in my oven on my air fryer setting at about 425. If you don't have an air fryer setting on your oven, do a convection bake, which will help blow around the hot air. And these are gonna go in for about 10 minutes. And they'll kind of the cheese will crisp up, but they'll have pretty nice, vibrant green color. So I'm gonna set my timer. I'm gonna remember not clear it off. Earlier today, I baked some muffins and I popped the muffins in, and then I cleared it and turned off the oven. So when I went back, when the timer went off, they were not ready. But we saved them. It wasn't the end of the world. Okay. Ooh, these are looking pretty good. This fat guy needs a little bit longer, but I'm sorry. Does that not look like a picture perfect English muffin? It looks pretty good to me. I don't think he remembers what an English muffin is. He's looking at me like I'm crazy. Okay, let's take, this guy is pretty cool there. Let's toast these ones up. My big fat guy, he needs a little bit more, but I can transfer another one on while these are heating up. So I'm pretty sure Thomas would approve of that one. Let's slide this over here. We're gonna get our fish cooking. I actually think I'm done with the cutting board because my fruit I can just cut with my paring knife. Let's give this a nice stir. I can see it thickening up. You can see when you look in here, you see how it's starting to thicken up. It's absorbing all of that lovely creamy milk and water to give it some great flavor. We'll also be adding cheese in there, but cooking it nice and slowly to absorb it. 30 minutes, not quite 30 minutes, so maybe a little less for our polenta is perfect. Okay, let's get these guys. I think, trying to feel it, I think a little bit longer on that one. Okay, look at this. Nice browning on each side. Oh, look, that one's pretty good. This guy is not ready. These are my first time doing these, and I think they're turning out pretty good for a first time. So, Mr. Dowdy Mufasa over there. Okay, let's pop our fish in. I'm going to actually switch my polenta. This, I was using it to slip my things, is actually a fish spatula. So I'm going to be using it for my fish. I'll get a new spatula for this. It's crazy to think they have different spatulas for everything. But a fish spatula works perfectly because it is long, skinny, and the curvature works for like scooping up a fillet, which is a bit more curved. So let's add in. I'm hoping I can get 3 at a time, but you know what? These are really big tilapia. So I think I can only get 2. So I'm going to turn on my warmer on my oven so that I can pop these in there to keep them nice and warm when we fry them up. Because we are feeding a small army and got a lot to fry up. You could potentially bake these in the oven, but I just prefer pan-fried fish over baked. But if you were going to do it in the oven, I would do it on about a 400, and maybe even on the high broil setting would probably give you the best result.
You have a question? How do you keep the kiddos so quiet?
The trick is we don't let them have their electronics until nighttime. So this is their watching a movie. So we typically make them stay off electronics and TV all day. And then we let them have a reward of a movie night. Or if it's nice, they'll be playing outside. So, but I can always still hear them running around and moving around and being crazy. But anytime they get like a movie night or furry things, they just absolutely love it. I'm going to turn this down nice and low. And we are going to put our lid on it now that we've got a simmer, because if we leave the lid off, it is going to bubble everywhere. But we're going to seal that in. Okay, this guy looks nice and done. We're going to slide our next one on, which is, okay, this guy looks nice and done. We're going to slide our next one on, which is not quite circular. And we've got one more. Okay. These are cooking up fairly well. So with our fish, what I'm looking for is a golden brown crisping edges forming. So you can start to see a little bit of that. That's when I know it will be ready to flip. Let me grab out a baking sheet, because we're going to want to place these on the baking sheet. And then I'll put them in my oven to keep them nice and warm, since we are cooking a lot. Grab a little bit of paper towels, because even though these aren't like deep fried, they are cooked in a little bit of oil. So I will put them on a paper towel just to soak up that extra oil, make them less greasy. Let's grab. We're going to do, they're pretty big, so I'm going to scoop under.
What kind of fish?
This is just tilapia. So good old tilapia. Look at that beautiful golden crisping. You can see that's the paprika gives it this nice coloring, and that cheese crisped up. There we go. But there is our first 2 fillets of our tilapia. It's got just the lovely herbs and seasoning, but that's why I'll say they give this nice kind of rich, darkened color to it, which is so good. Okay. Looks like this guy is almost ready. See, I tell you, when my husband eats one of these, I think he's going to agree that they are better than Thomas's. I'm very excited for them. I love English muffins with jam, and I love English. I want to see if this recipe works out really well, then I'm going to be making breakfast sandwiches with them, because I'm like, Starbucks has this breakfast sandwich there with sausage, egg, and cheese, and on an English muffin, and I can make that. Okay, let's get our fruit prepped for tonight while we wait. We're going to have kiwis and strawberries, so I'm going to give my strawberries a quick rinse.
You have a question? What's the seasoning on the fish?
The fish, yes. So we actually have a kind of a collection of seasonings. We have garlic powder, onion powder, or garlic salt, onion powder, paprika, some Mrs. Dash's parsley, and black pepper. And that rounds out our seasoning. And then Parmesan. Don't forget the Parmesan. That's going to give you this nice kind of crispy edges on there. So it's going to give you the feel of kind of like a breaded fried fish, because it crisps up nicely, but without any of those kind of carbs or whatnot to it. And it's just very lovely. Okay. Let's get our first. I think these are, yes, I'm going to go wash this. I had it resting. I want to use this one to put it in there because it will be easier to pull it out on with this one. I got to get another spatula out so I use the right one. There we go. So I'm going to slide this under. And here is the first set of tilapia coming out. And there we go. And now we're going to put in our next ones. And this is, again, all those seasonings on it will just have such a great flavor. Will be so delicious. Let's flip over here. Oh, our English muffins are working well. I think we got another one finished. Look, that cornmeal gives it that kind of pretty look to it that is typical of an English muffin. So there's no cornmeal in the English muffin. It's made with my sourdough starter and flour and honey, a little bit of honey. And but when you shape them, you lay them out on a parchment paper with cornmeal on it, and then you dust that cornmeal on the top to give it, I guess, that texture that is indicative of an English muffin. Let's check on this. Beautiful. This is see how much it's thickened up? This is our creamy polenta. Again, we're going to add in our cheese right towards the end. If you add it in too soon, then what happens is it can sink down to the bottom and burn. But that is looking spectacular. Okay, let's finish up our strawberries here. Our broccoli should be done in a few minutes, which means I say a few minutes. There goes the broccoli. A few minutes, which means I say a few minutes. There goes the broccoli. It's broccoli is a vibrant green here, which is what you want. It's that beautiful, vibrant color it means it's like tender, but still has a nice bite to it. Let me grab this, slide it all the way out there. I will say the shaved Parmesan I normally use works a little bit better than the shredded, but still good, still delicious. It will have a nice crispy edge to it. Okay. Let's see if these are ready to flip. We're looking a little bit. Slide that under there. And it's just make sure when you flip these with the cheese, you slide your spatula underneath and loosen it up first, because if you try to flip it without it being loosened up, what you can do is pull off your breading. There we go. So we've got our next one. I'm going to turn it up a smidge. Give my hands a quick rinse. I will say they are big fillets today, which makes them a little bit harder to work with, but still delicious. Okay. This guy looks like he's nice and done. And one last curl going on. Slide this out of the way. And let's get ready to add in our cheese to our polenta. I'm gonna got it nice and low. And we're gonna be using a blend of Swiss gruyere and then a little bit of Parmesan cheese. So it's kind of like a 3 cheesy polenta, but it will be really delicious. So we're gonna add in the whole bag, which is 2 cups. And then about not quite as much Parmesan cheese. And get a nice little smidge here. That was about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. And we're gonna give it a nice stir. Really mix it into our creamy polenta. And that is gonna give it such a great flavor. Polenta is a lot more fluffy than grits. So grits are a bit more dense, but I don't know if you can tell, but how they lift up, they are a lot more fluffy. It's like the difference between like quinoa and couscous. You know how they have that fluffy texture to it? Polenta, when they've cooked that long, they get this nice, more airy, fluffy texture than grits. Okay, we've got that down nice and low. And oh, beautiful. Got our next one out. I said once your skillet really heats up, they cook up much faster. There we go. Okay. Trying to make this. There we go. It is so big. They're kind of hard to work with here, but delicious nonetheless. I'm going to actually add a smidge more oil in here. There we go. I like to have a nice little basin on it. And don't be afraid to add more oil if you realize you run out. Just let it heat up a little bit before you add your next fillet in. Because if you add it in while it's cold, then you're going to get a soggy little crisping. So it shouldn't take long for that to really heat up, just about 30 seconds or so. I can already see it starting to bubble. But if you put your stuff in when it's cold, when you just added it, you're going to have, it won't crisp up as nice, and it's more likely to stick to your pan.
You have a question. Does the polenta, does it taste like potatoes?
No, polenta tastes similar to grits. Has a slightly different texture. It's softer and more fluffy. They're made out of the same ingredients. So that's what I say. It doesn't taste anything like mashed potatoes or a potato product. It definitely has that grits flavor to it, but think of really creamy, non-gritty grits. That's what polenta is. They're fluffy. They're a bit more airy. Delicious. Torn was so excited when he found out we're having polenta tonight because he loved it. I made it a couple weeks ago when I did some little burgerettes with them, and he just was like, "Oh, this is so good." And I was like, "Yeah, I really haven't made much polenta recently because I didn't really think my kids liked it as much, but they all loved it." So I've been adding it back into our routine here. Get this, we're going to get our strawberries, and then we have some kiwis cut up, and I always put my kiwis on top. Now I have my sister, she's a little savage when she gives her kids kiwis. She does not cut them up. I peel off the skin for them. She cuts them in half, and she's like, use a spoon to scoop them out. And I say it's savage. You got to do the little slices. This is how I always had them. They were sliced up like this. And I will say, I love kiwis. And I don't know if many people know this, but they have golden kiwis, which are, I love them. They're actually a little bit sweeter than a green kiwi. And so they're not, green kiwis can be a bit tangy. They're a bit sweeter and nicer, but they're golden on the inside. Costco sells them. I'd never had them until I saw them at Costco. This one's a little tougher. Let's get this all off. There we go. I always feel like strawberries and kiwis go so well together. There we go. Let's flip our crumpets here. And then I think we might have a plate ready to serve up. Look at that. Beautiful. Got those nice golden brown. We're going to toast that up this side. That one needs a little bit more. This guy is firm as he runs away. And then these two are almost done. You can tell when you touch them, they are more firm versus that soft pillowy you get from like an uncooked. Let's flip our fish here. And then I think we can plate up a plate for you guys, because I won't keep you guys here to watch me cook all of these fillets. There we go. Beautiful. You got that nice crispy cheese on it. That is all those little crispy bits. That's the Parmesan cheese crisping up. So let's grab a plate and let's serve up our dinner. But before we do that, let me show you. I want to get a knife and cut into one of our little crumpets here, or English muffins. I'll get one that's cooled off a little bit.
How do you keep the fish warm while the rest cooks?
So I will pop these in the oven for just a second. I have my warmer on, and that will just keep them nice and warm. But unfortunately, when you're cooking for as many people as I am, it is really hard to get everything finished and thing like that. So nice. Look at our crummet. It's steeping inside. It's steamed. It's going to be lovely with some jam. So let's get in here. And these are actually still pretty hot. Like these will be perfect for Jack and Teddy, who are little and don't like their food as hot. But let's add on and get ourselves plated up here. So here is our herb crusted tilapia with Parmesan cheese, our blend of spices, just delicious. We have our garlic roasted broccoli that we did in the oven. Look at those nice, bright, vibrant with the cheese. And our ooey gooey, delicious. Look at this cheese pull in there, that delicious polenta. You can just see all of that cheese stretching in there. Just absolutely delicious. And then, of course, my English muffin that we will be serving with some jam in there. Just brighten up, makes it absolutely delicious. And I think if you take a bite of the tilapia and you eat it with the cheesy polenta at the same time, it's going to be fantastic, because those spices and herbs will just go right together. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what we're making for our family, hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our recipes or all of our videos to the link on the page. I almost fell over there, guys. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go find that video, watch along, and cook along with them. So see you again. Well, guys, thanks again for joining us. Don't forget